Our next storyteller tonight approaches life with a sense of humor and a deeply held belief that we are all divine and beautiful creatures.
Oh, that doesn't work well. So some people are lucky enough to find their vocation when they're young. For me, it didn't happen until the year I turned 40. In 2006, I was working as an electronic medical records trainer. It's not as glamorous as you may think. And I'm happy enough. I am enjoying my job. The two things I like about it most are that I get to help doctors and nurses learn that computers are not their enemy, even though I hate them too, and that it's a tool for practicing the art of medicine. The other thing I really love about this job is the fact that I get to coach and mentor other trainers, people who are learning how to train or who are starting new careers in training, and I just love that. I love seeing people reach their potential. So I'm enjoying the job, and this opportunity to get additional training just falls in my lap. I find out about a life coaching program in New York City that's 5 days, and I'm so excited about it that I spend my own money and take my vacation time to go to New York. I get there, and I am just in heaven. It's like Shazam. Mind blown. And that wasn't about being in New York City because we weren't in the best neighborhood in New York City for this training. It was being with my tribe. These people were incredible, and what we were working on was just so life-affirming, to see people, to help them see themselves, and to help them be their best. So I was thrilled, and I was like, I finally found what I want to be when I grow up. It only took me 40 years. And I came back to Cincinnati, and unfortunately, real life hit. It wasn't going to be possible for me to follow my bliss. I was a newly divorced mother of 2 young children with a house that I got in the divorce as well. So I had a mortgage payment and private school tuition. I needed that steady paycheck. I couldn't take the risk of going out on my own. There were so many things that just made it impossible. There were a lot of excuses. There were at least good excuses in 2006 for why I didn't go into life coaching. Fast forward to 2015. Those excuses have gone away. Well, not completely gone away. My children would not be happy to hear that I wiped them out. But they are in their last years of high school and college, respectively. I have sold the house, so there's no more mortgage payment, and I'm 2 bad boyfriends past the divorce, so none of that stuff counts either. My sister is cheering that. I love that. So I have no more excuses for not following my dream, except for the fact that in 2006, I had packed that dream up so tightly and put it so far back in my dream closet that it was sitting next to the desire to marry Sean Cassidy. I was not thinking about being a coach in 2015. I was thinking about the fact that my kids were almost grown, I didn't have a mortgage, I might be able to do some fun things. And at the same time, I had another opportunity fall right in my lap. It was the chance to make big money and do a big job in Baltimore. Somebody called me and literally offered me this job. I didn't even have to go looking for it. There was no way I was going to pass this up because it was just too great a chance to do some good work. So I went to Baltimore from Cincinnati. In the first 3 weeks that I'm there, I get promoted. This is a good job, and now it's an even better job. And I have 3 teams that I am in charge of, which meant that I actually got to use those coaching skills, which I had been using for the last 10 years. I'd just never been thinking about it as a career. So I'm doing this job, and it's good enough. I'm happy enough, which, at almost 50 years old, happy enough seems pretty good some days. And I realized that it's time to really be more than happy enough. So at the beginning of 2018, I make a resolution, and no, it wasn't to lose weight or go to the gym or sign up for Match.com again. It was to spend 2018 preparing to move at the beginning of 2019 to the beach. I was going to finally, as Dave told you, I'm a mermaid at heart. I was finally going to live the dream of being a mermaid, at least on weekends, because the only way I could think of to finance this, since I'm walking away from this big money job, is to go back into healthcare consulting. So once again, Sean Cassidy is keeping my dream in the closet. I'm not thinking about it at all. I'm going to, take that lifesaver, still use those excuses for why I can't do what I'm most blissful at doing. And the universe decided that it wasn't going to take any more shitty excuses. In May of 2018, I went to work one day, and I felt kind of icky, which is a medical term for those of you who aren't in healthcare. I was kind of crampy, I was kind of bloated, and not just the regular menopausal woman bloated kind of thing. Something wasn't right. But I had 500 emails and 5 meetings that day. There was no way I wasn't going to work. I did mention to people at the office that I wasn't feeling great, and one of the nurses that I worked with said, "Oh, you should probably call your doctor." That voice of reason got drowned out by all of the other things that required my attention. Over the next few days, I didn't feel any better, but I also didn't slow down any. I think the only thing I did to take care of myself was to send somebody out to get me Gas-X. I still worked 10 and 12-hour days for several days. 5 or 6 days later, after a 12 or 14-hour day, I got home to my cute little apartment and proceeded to projectile vomit all over it. Yeah, it's not that funny, especially if you have to clean it up. But so I vomit all over the apartment, and at that point, it finally dawns on me. I haven't pooped in maybe 5 or 6 days. There's something probably not right, and because, I worked in healthcare for 15 years as a computer trainer, I thought I could diagnose myself, so I had a graduate degree, it just wasn't in medicine. So I went to the emergency room and said, "I think I have an obstructed bowel." I sat in the emergency room for 2 hours with the bucket full of puke in my lap, waiting for somebody to take me back to an examining room. When they finally take me back to the examining room, it takes them several hours to do all of the tests that they want to do. They 1 million blood tests, CAT scan, and I am just in agony, begging for more morphine every chance I get because I'm in such pain. And at probably about midnight, so I've been there 4 or 5 hours at this point, I hear the residents who are not any older than Doogie Howser. And I can say that because I was in healthcare for 15 years. I know how old they are. So they're on the other side of the curtain from the examination room. And for any of you who are in healthcare, you need to know curtains are not soundproof. So these little tykes are talking about me, and they're looking at my CAT scan at the time, and they say, "Oh, I think this is a bad picture." There's a problem with people having cameras on their phones, guys, because it wasn't a bad picture. But they were like, "Oh, that appendix is kind of blurry. Maybe we should give her some IV antibiotics." IV antibiotics, if you haven't been in an emergency room for appendicitis recently, is how they actually approach taking care of you now. They no longer immediately take you to surgery. It has something to do with the insurance companies deciding that it's perfectly appropriate for you to walk around with a little sack of useless skin in your body that flares up once in a while, as long as they don't have to pay for the surgery. It's kind of the same reason why I stuck with the last bad boyfriend, actually. Yeah. Useless sack of shit. Oh, I'm sorry. So they, put another IV in me. They've got the antibiotics going. And about 3 a.m., the attending physician finally makes it into my examination room, and she looks at the CAT scan and says, I think we're going to do surgery just in case. So I am like, sure, I'm dying at this point. It's been so long. I'm curled up in the fetal position. They schedule me for surgery after they missed the first case request. So instead of 6 a.m., I finally head up to the surgical suite at noon. At this point, I've been in the hospital for 15 hours without having any relief to the pain that I'm in. I get to the surgical suite, and the first thing I think is, God damn, that surgeon is really hot. Which is how I knew I wasn't dead yet. Because the libido was still working. Everything else shut down, but the libido was still working. And so Dr. McDreamy says to me, there are 3 things that could happen to you. We could go in and get your appendix out, 20-minute surgery, fine, you're home tomorrow. The second possibility is that the appendix is actually ruptured. If that's happened, the surgery goes from complicated to very complicated, depending on how much they have to clean me out once they get the appendix out. The third option is that the appendix has ruptured and it's also damaged my colon. Hands up for anybody who didn't know that your appendix is actually attached at the end of your colon. I found that out after 15 hours of agony from the cute doctor, because I did not know that. I thought it was just this little thing, sticking out there doing nothing, but it's at the end of your colon. So I head into surgery with a fourth option in my head, thinking, even though he didn't say it, I might not make it through this, because I'm sure I'm dying. I've heard them say the word septic. I know that this is bad shit. And so I wake up in post-op, and first of all, I wake up in post-op. And I look down, and one of the things about the third option is if the colon had been damaged, I would end up with a colostomy bag, at least a temporary one. So after being excited that I'm awake, I look down and there's no bag on my side. The first words out of my mouth were, "I'm a rock star!" And the nurses documented it for my friends. God. That was the last time I felt like a real rock star, because I was alive. I later found out that my appendix had not just ruptured, it had exploded. It had been gone for at least 48 hours before they got in to take it out, which meant my colon had been literally just spilling shit all over. And if you've not dealt with appendicitis before, the fact that I lived for 48 hours with my appendix ruptured is pretty amazing. They usually say after about 24 hours you're a goner, but I'm too hard-headed for that. So I don't have a colostomy bag. I do have I've got a nickname. By the time I wake up the next day, I find out I've got a nickname in the hospital. I'm called Pelvis Full of Pus. And the surgery took 5 times as long as a normal surgery, because they literally went in, moved my innards around, did a power wash, and then did that suction thing like in the car wash, to get all of the fluid out of me. So I've got a lot of pain, and I'm also in the hospital for 4 days, which is 4 times longer than most people stay for an appendectomy. You would think that this would be enough shit in my life, right? I told you at least 2 bad boyfriends, an ex-husband, 2 teenagers at home. I had plenty of shit. But as karma, whatever would have it, over the next 3 weeks, I have to be readmitted to the hospital because I have peritonitis, which it means abscesses in my abdomen. I have 5 of them because I am an overachiever. I end up with a drain. I get to go home. I get to go back and have the drain changed after I've spent a week cleaning my own pus out. Oh, that's fun. And the projectile vomit that I found when I got home, too. And to top it all off, when they're changing out the drain, they actually perforate my colon again. So the thing that I had most dreaded other than dying was walking around with a colostomy bag. I woke up after that drain swap, where they'd also overdosed me on fentanyl, and had a colostomy bag attached to me. Now, there are a lot of details in here that have to do with all of the shit that was in me over that month, but you'll have to buy the book to get those because I only have 15 minutes to talk. So I've been full of shit. I finally get to the point where I have no bag. And fast forward 6 months, I still am in pain every single day. I'm not able to work full time. I thankfully didn't have a permanent colostomy bag, but I'm at the end of my rope. And so I end up deciding to pack up my belongings and come back to Cincinnati, where my sister very kindly allows me to live in her attic, which, believe me, when you're in chronic pain, going up 3 flights of steps every day means that they don't see me very much. I get up there, I don't come down. So I come back, and I still have in my head that I can do this. I can move to the beach. I can go back to consulting. I just need a couple of months to just focus on recuperation. So in January 2019, I go to Florida, but not to live. I go to Florida to go to a conference and hopefully find consulting work because I'm still not thinking about the real dream in the dream closet. And it's a 3-day conference. I'm able to participate in 1 day of it because the travel and the having to wear real clothes and put on makeup and do all of the things that we take for granted in the world was so exhausting that 2 of those 3 days that I was in Florida, I slept. I came back to Cincinnati and realized I had to do something. I couldn't do consulting. That dream had exploded. That wasn't going to be something that happened for me. But I had to do something because I'd been living on my savings, and even though my sister is incredibly gracious, Citibank and Chase are not. So I have bills to pay. And so I started thinking about all the things I've done in my life, because I have done just about everything. I'm iPhone 2006 version, and they keep taking all the updates back. But I started thinking, and I'm like, well, what about that life coach training that you did in 2006? Maybe it's time to think about doing that. And I pull out my computer and I start researching schools for a coaching credential. I find one that I can afford. It's 3 separate weeks. I have to go to Toronto. I'm not sure I can travel, but I'm going to try because this is something that I remember loving, and it's something I can do from home, and home can be in Florida finally. So I go to Toronto the first week, and I'm home. I was supposed to bring Kleenex up, I forgot. I'm home. I'm with my tribe. This is, my heart, the Grinch grew 3 sizes. I'm so excited. And I actually have enough energy for the first time in a year to sit up and stay engaged for 8 straight hours. That hasn't happened since May of 2018. Of course, I do go back to my Airbnb every night, sleep 12 hours, and it takes me 3 weeks after that first week home of sleeping and recuperating before I have anything even close to energy. I go back for the second week, and it's even better. It's heaven. I only sleep 10 hours at night that week. For somebody who was sleeping like 14 hours a day for a year, it's a fabulous thing to only sleep 10 hours. And it only takes me a week to feel better once I get home. I go back the 3rd week, and it's the last week that I have for training. And I not only sat there for 8 hours every day, I only slept 8 hours every night. And 3 of the 5 nights of school, I went out to dinner. I was home. I had found my bliss. So I came back to Cincinnati and knew what needed to happen. I needed to start thinking about my life a little differently. 2018, that was the year of shit. Shit, 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 shit. I was full of shit. I was a sack of shit. I had shit for brains. It was shit. 2019, I figured out a way to turn that shit into fertilizer. 2020 is going to be the year of growth. I officially launched my coaching practice, Illuminate Great, just this last week. And the best part about it is that I now get to take all of this and fertilize others.